No pitching now.
Election hour.
So I'd like to call the Hartford Board of School Directors meeting, April 24, 2024. So, are there any changes, additions, and approval?
Could we add, an update from me on media relations?
And objection, is there anybody else?
Works for me.
You know, and that fits into the board committee reports anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's not an action type of
Yeah.
thing, it's just an FYI, a lot of activity going on, so you might wanna know.
Well, with that, I'd like to move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
so we have,
Go ahead. Sorry.
no, we have a motion in the second to approve the agenda
Well, actually, as amended,
as amended.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So the first order of business is and not to put excuse me. Doug on the spot, but Doug, would you like to offer the resolution? Read it for us.
Second page.
I figured since you guys were partners in crime.
Well, he's finding that, for anyone who needs the guest password, it's, 783-809. 783-809.
We have a resolution, whereas Sarah Campbell has served on the Hartford Board of School Directors as an appointed member August 2023 through March 2024. And whereas her competence, integrity, and passion has enabled her to fill the role of board member with vision and effectiveness, and her work on behalf of the school district, having gone far beyond what may be expected, has shown extraordinary drive, sensitivity, compassion, as well as a dedication to maintaining the school district's infrastructure. Now therefore be it resolved by her fellow board members that Sarah Campbell be given a note of sincere appreciation for her many years of service and many different roles on the Hartford School Board Directors, and furthermore, that this resolution is recorded in the town records dated this 24th day of April 2024.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
And I'll give that a little note with passion.
What we usually do is the board and I sign it, and then we put it on really nice paper and frame it. I'll get it to you. To your desk or office,
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
So thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you guys. It's my pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to push it through now that we've crossed our first hurdle.
Thank you. So, the next item is, FY 25 budget implementation and considerations.
Yeah, I just wanted to put this on the agenda. First of all, to say congratulations to all of the board members. And then say a thank you to the community and everybody who supported the budget. It was quite a bit of work and quite strange this year, given the changes in funding in Montpelier and the precision and all the work that went into rewarning the budget and, meeting about it and then getting it passed, so super excited, to be able to move forward with that. You know, we will be working with, a little tighter budget than we've ever done with a recent memory, but, we'll get it done and make sure we do the best job we can, but, we're immensely, thankful, grateful to the community for supporting it. So, hopefully next year won't be as hard. They'll get their act straightened out, but we'll see. I am meeting with the town manager Friday, and, one of the topics is appraisal. Cool. But, anyone else had anything to add? This is our first meeting since the, vote, so.
Wanted to thank those who showed up at the various meetings, asked questions. And ultimately decided to vote in favor of the budget to the bond. We understand that it is not an easy choice for many, many people. Financial situation of the world being what it is. But we appreciate, or at least I greatly appreciate, their willingness to continue to fund what is, I think, one of the central institutions of our community.
I noticed, Jacob Bazine is online too. I'm not sure, Jake, if you wanted to say anything, about this topic.
Nothing really to add other than just thank you to the taxpayers for believing in us, and we'll do everything we can to make you proud.
Thanks, Jake.
You know, I think that, you know, in the midst of so much change, you know, in education here in Vermont, it's been a difficult time. And you can't just put one item, you know, as a reason for all of this turmoil. You know, Peter did a great job, trying to dissect, you know, that anomaly of time. You know, it was like a storm that hit all at once. You know, appraisals, inflation, healthcare. You know, I mean, you couldn't have had a stranger time for it all to come at the same time. And, you know, we're just hoping that, you know, collectively, we, you know, as a community can just continue to work forward and then get the supports that we need, you know, from my colleagues at, you know, the state level, you know, to help balance it and get us back through, you know, as we always do here at Vermont. So thank you again. So bond implementation process and timeline.
Yeah, thank you. I've been busy since the 15th, when I knew that the bond passed, in addition to the budget. And again, we are really grateful that the taxpayers, voted in favor of the bond. Super excited to get going on this work, so I didn't want to wait a minute. So I started working on just a very preliminary outline of what the board, what the community can expect from the administration as far as, you know, working towards the $21 million bond and everything that's involved. I think the first thing that we've talked about wanting to do is form a stakeholder steering committee, and want to do that right away because we have a lot of work to do. And one of the first things we really want to get working on is is the RFP for the enrollment catchment, which I'm calling the redistricting plan and the 20-year maintenance facilities plan. So the sooner we get that RFP created and out there on the market to firms that can actually do that much work. I mean, hopefully it's one firm, it might be two different firms. I'm not sure. But the sooner we can get it out there and start getting some replies, we can start interviewing and get a firm lined up, because, you know, my goal is really to get that done next school year. Because everything, well, not everything, but quite a bit of the bond work depends on those three studies. Obviously, well, when I go through some of the outline, I'll talk about that, but really trying to have a stakeholder steering committee and figure out what the right configuration or representation is on that steering committee is. So, just from my experience, I was thinking a couple representatives from the administration. So obviously Jacob, Jonathan, Garthwaite, the director of facilities, myself. None of us feel like we can bow out. It's just too important. We really feel like we need a couple representatives from the community and perhaps someone from the rec department, because we share all of our facilities with the recreation department. And I just think that's a sort of a good practice. And maybe a teacher, not maybe a teacher, but a teacher from one of the schools that can sort of represent the teacher educational concerns. So that's what we're thinking about right now. Probably around 7 people might be really appropriate. So any comments or concerns about that? I mean, everything that we do would be brought back to the entire school board for your approval. So it's not like we're gonna be making decisions and acting on them right away. We want to make sure that when we find a firm or a couple firms, that we bring them to the board to talk to, interview, discuss. Because it's gonna be a huge decision. It's a big chunk of money too. Why don't I run through the whole thing and then board members can comment or however you want to proceed. Again, this is very preliminary, but I wanted to show people that we're already starting to think about how to do this. So there's really 3 major components of the bond. So the 5-year capital renewal project planning, getting going on that already. Jonathan's already got engineering firms lined up to do an analysis of this building's drainage and water supply, which is huge. We're working on, analysis of the roofs at OQS and VBS, and what's the right fix for those. That might include, some ventilation work as well as some insulation work. Without getting into a lot of details, some of the stuff that we know has got to be replaced is all schools have various doors, especially entrance doors that need to be fixed right away. The OQS and the tech center both have drainage issues that we're well aware of. Despite, what the enrollment or the catchment study tell us, we know that those drainage issues have got to be fixed. It's not going to impact what we use the school for. All schools have some fire alarm, security alarm issues. The middle school and the tech center, the suppression systems, actually that's the high school and the tech center. The sprinkler systems need to be upgraded and reworked a bit before any construction is done in either building. We know the middle school chimney has to be replaced. That's a huge project. So we've already got an engineer analyzing that, what that's going to entail and how we can get that done. And that's not going to affect what we're doing with the building. So we're only talking about the projects in this section that aren't gonna impinge on what the enrollment or catchment study tells us about building use. But the chimney at the middle school, one, it's huge. Two, it's inside the middle of the building, so it needs to be planned carefully so that we can do that in the summer months. Taken down and then rebuilt, all in one summer. So we're working on planning that now so that next summer we can get that done. And that we'll make sure that whatever we build, you know, however we build that chimney, it's gonna be for whatever kind of heat that we decide to use. But we're not gonna build it just for oil fired furnaces. And then we know that the middle school elevator has to be replaced again, regardless of what the middle school in the end is used for. Even if it's got a completely different function, we still know we gotta get from the first floor to the second floor to the first floor. And all schools, windows are on the docket for replacement or repair, because they're all failing.
With respect to the windows, I would ask that we pay attention to the aesthetics of the windows, as we discovered with the Wilder School. Doing that wrong makes an enormous and bad impact upon how the building looks and functions.
Yeah, and we did it right at the while.
Yes, we did, but we also were starting from a point of
Yeah,
having done it wrong for quite a number of years.
yeah, and again, that's not a promise that they'll all be done within
Right,
5
yeah.
years, but it's an assessment of what we're doing and what we should replace it with. So then that second big piece of the bond is the district growth and catchment study. So we really want to form a committee so we can research RFPs that are already done for things like that. Really try to figure out, you know, how we want to approach it and then disseminate it to firms that we think, well, to the whole country. But I mean, then specifically to firms that we know have a track record of doing this work, they're successful. That's a big chunk of work, and again, we want to get it done as quickly as possible because so much of the bond is contingent on those studies. And then the third big piece is development of the master facilities plan, hopefully a 20-year plan of, you know, what we have, what we need to maintain, and maybe what we need to look at as far as new facilities or changes in facilities. So again, it's certainly not by any stretch complete, but just wanted you to know and the community to know that we already started thinking about how to use the bond proceeds and how to move forward on everything that we've talked about.
Tom, the things that you've listed, does that cover all of the life safety issues?
Yeah.
Codes?
That's, that $6 million that we talked about is really in that first section.
Okay.
That's our goal, and Jonathan's already started working on engineering assessments and, you know, plans for getting that work done. He'll probably come to, not the next meeting, because I'm hoping we do training, but that second meeting in May with a very detailed list of what we're doing now.
Since I don't know how certain things are run in the past. Obviously, the steering committee is crucial. And I'm very sensitive to that. And have major concerns of having a chairperson that we can count on that will make things happen. I'd like to nominate a person if in fact they're willing and they have the time. And that's Sarah Campbell. She started it, she's been here through it all. And I know with her at the helm, it's gonna get done and it's gonna get done right. So I don't know how, what the process is to do that. If we're allowed to have a non-school member, whatever, be in that role.
It's a board decision. Which direction we move. So being that there has been a discussion started. Probably before we continue the discussion, I guess we should ask a quick question to Sarah, if she would be, willing to not only serve on the committee, but if you were a member of the committee, would you consider being the chair of that committee?
Absolutely. Yes.
So let us, if there is any further discussion, we can continue discussion.
So can I make a motion that we put Sarah in the role as the chairperson for this committee? That would, how we do it?
That would be another.
I'll second that motion.
Sarah,
I'm just curious, normally
Discussion.
committees come up with a chair internally, and I don't know.
No.
No, okay,
no,
I just want to make sure.
there isn't a specific guideline, let's say structurally. Committees have the option of either determining, the chair. The elected body can determine the
Okay.
chair.
Awesome.
Or statute might determine the chair.
Oh, okay.
So there's any number of ways that, let's say, the chair can be determined. In this case, being that it is an active committee of the board, we can determine how we want to do that. We could have said, you can select your own chair once you convene the committee. But, right, if that helps.
Yeah, it does. I'm just curious.
Sorry, I'm dealing with too much of this. But, any further discussion before we vote?
The only question I have is, do we wish to do it now or as part of a larger discussion on the size and scope of the committee itself? I have no objection at all to the choice. Just want to know whether it makes more sense to do that as part of one thing or get this out of the way and then move on to the second part.
Why don't we go ahead and we'll finish this part of it. And then we can have a discussion about size and scope. And being that we've got a number of folks that have served on fairly recent committees, being, like Doug and yourself. And it was very positive, situation. Hopefully we can have a good discussion about this. So there's no further discussion.
I do have one thing to add about the committee. I mean, I think we should consider, I know that Tom had mentioned having one parent on the committee. But I think we might want to consider having more parents to get representation from each school if possible. Because I think we'd have a whole lot of different viewpoints, regarding this work from parents that would represent kids going to each school.
Garrett, your point's well taken. We'll take that up during the discussion about the committee itself. We're gonna move this question, which is about the chair of the committee. And the next piece of business will be discussion of the committee itself.
Gotcha.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to select Sarah Campbell as our committee chair for the bond process. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Committee structure.
So can I just,
Tom?
what we were thinking, I mean, I understand that they'll want to have representation from everywhere, but we also want the committee to be able to move, you know, efficiently, I guess is the best word. So trying to figure out if there's parents who either represent a couple schools, like elementary, middle, high, you know, some, but Sarah is a parent. There are other parents I know that represent kids in 2, 3 different schools. And then, you know, a teacher and Jonathan, Jacob and I all sort of just live in this world, so we feel like we really gotta to be on the committee. So that's 7 right there. So I don't know, I guess the one thing up in the air is how many parent community members, given that there's already 2. And that the administrators, teachers, they may also be community members, but I don't know if that counts. But I'm happy to do whatever the board wishes, but our desire is to keep it, you know, around 7 so that we can function well.
Then we'll,
Sorry, Garrett, to address your concern, I was already thinking that we would want to have an advisory board that is like a stakeholder group and not necessarily the core committee. And I'd also like to get champions from each school, so a staff member, a teacher, whoever, who really is able to talk very deeply about their school's culture and needs in these stakeholder conversations. So I totally hear you, and that is definitely a direction I want to go in. But I agree with Tom, 7 is a good number, and once it gets too big, it starts to become really slow.
It becomes impossible to schedule times.
Exactly.
Calendars won't.
No,
work.
I understand the agility of the committee is important. So yeah, you know, once you add 5 extra people and you get to like 12, then that becomes a nightmare to schedule. So I totally understand that. No, my concern, you know, which I think we all agree on, is that I just want to make sure that there's consideration from each school.
so
I
Garrett,
love that idea.
Garrett, the suggestion that Sarah offered, and, you know, speaking, you know, from that, you know, world where she, lives, are you comfortable with that approach? You know, as far as the stakeholder groups and the champions in each of the buildings and making sure that we are robust in our, reaching out, you know, to those folks?
Yes, I'm very comfortable with that. I think Sarah's idea would, I mean, that would be ideal, right? Keep a smaller committee, but still make sure that voices are heard from each of those schools. So I like that idea.
Because I would agree that it's achievable. You know, it's almost like a micro version of the board itself, you know, so it makes sense. And any other thoughts?
No, I agree. You want to have the board. The committee that's doing this, small enough that they can actually function. And can gather together without having to put off for 3 months. The next time everybody can be present, which happens all too easily. But I think it's much more important that the direction be given to that committee to collect all those viewpoints than it have representatives of those viewpoints on the committee itself.
Any other?
Yeah, Doug and I just had a question. Do we need someone from the union, or are we gonna count one of the teacher to be from the union also? Does the union have any say in it? I
I
don't
think
know.
the teacher could be the union person.
So that raises the question, who gets to choose that teacher?
Who gets to what?
Who chooses?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
If the person is representing the union, then the union would have the choice.
Right.
Logically, if the person is representing, the teacher viewpoint, then arguably we get to choose which of the people who might volunteer to do that we would want.
Or we could,
Approach them.
or we could request, being that all teachers are represented by the association, even if not all teachers are members, the association has access to all of the teachers as far as being able to have that discussion internally and see who, you know, the teachers would want to represent them, you know, like on that, you know, on that, group. Because when we get to the other discussion, you know, before, you know, all, you know, the December 18th letter and all this, you know, implosion of, the tax structure in the state. And we were looking at, search process. One of the pieces that people were asking was how would, you know, the search, you know, group be, implemented. And it was the same thing. You know, the union previously, when we did that, actually made the selection of those members. And because we had designated those people, this has a little different designation in the sense that we're saying teacher, not union member. So that it's nuanced, but you know, we do have to pay attention to it. No, that's, it's a great, it's an important question, you know.
So I don't have an answer for which version. I just wanted to raise the issue so we can decide which way we wish to approach it. Aware that, how we approach it has consequences for how that person is selected. And, that's the only reason I brought that up. Not that I had a problem either way.
Okay, thank you.
And if you think one way or the other, please state so.
And actually, being that we have a, let's say, a long-serving, you know, teacher in the room, who I would trust. Would you like to share your thought?
Well, I just wanted to ask, one teacher versus one elementary teacher and a secondary teacher, you have two totally different worlds in your district. And I think to ask one teacher to represent that whole realm is a lot to ask of one teacher, even though hopefully they would come back and communicate with the rest of the staff. But I think having two teachers and possibly a paraprofessional also support staff represented somehow, I don't know. But I think asking one person to do that for the whole district is a lot, I feel. But I feel like you should have at least two on there, one elementary and one secondary. Just a thought.
And I was thinking that we might want to table this particular discussion and have a sort of proposed model for what the committee would be to be brought back. It's a lot easier to react to okay, this is what we would propose. These be the 7 members or whatever, and so forth, than it is to try to make it up. Sort of like this,
You know, or a,
or 8. Yes, the point is,
right.
you know, so I have preferences always with committees, which is always have an odd number, so you don't have problems with, always keep it small enough that you're not running into scheduling problems, that kind of thing. But when you're trying to stuff representation and recognition of a lot of different segments of the school community into a small committee, it's very difficult to do that. And it probably makes sense to have a good bit of thinking about it. For instance, I'm not sure that we actually want to have more than one member of the administration on the committee, with the other members being advisors to the committee who are, they're non-voting, but they're always there. That kind of thing is something that we ought to be thinking about, and that's not gonna be easy to do in the heat of the moment right here. A little reflection, chance to talk it through, think about it, and then come back at the next meeting with a proposal for us to review, I think is actually probably the right way to do it. Now that we have our chairperson chosen, your thoughts on this, I think, are very pertinent. And perhaps some thinking on that brought back to us could be the best way to approach drawing up the committee rather than us trying to solve it right now.
So what I'd like to suggest in order to move the discussion, would be that, if Sarah wouldn't mind, like working, with Tom, to come up with, that proposal.
Okay.
And also, a little, flushed out piece around those stakeholders and how we can actually, visualize that maybe on paper, just a draft, of what that might look like. Because some of that might be answered, through that component as well. Thinking about, as far as being able to get voices heard and input made and still keep things moving. Because, we are on fairly tight timelines. Just because of the school calendar,
Especially in our,
And then we'll definitely have another opportunity once we hire this company
right?
to have even more in-depth, very specific stakeholders. So we might have 3 QES conversations. One of them might be only with staff and parents. One of them might be only with parents. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. So that's that other piece to the puzzle.
Okay.
So I think that would make sense if we could come back with a kind of a draft overview. Just like we had requested for Tom to put together this initial draft. Now we're at the next phase. So is everybody okay with that? For board members?
Yes.
Cool. So it was that was just a straw poll. We didn't need a motion. So, thank you.
thank you.
Superintendent search process.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot. We sort of put it on the back burner in the middle of the winter when the budget things went sideways and the board decided to forego the second superintendent. So we, the board table paused the search, but I don't think it's too early to start thinking about it again. And, I put a lot of thought into it, just trying to attract the best possible candidate we can for FY 26. The turnover in superintendents has increased since the pandemic. So it was around 14% turnover every year. Now it's almost 20%, 17% every year. And, what I've read about it is people are avoiding the job and moving because of politics, because of, communication issues, because of, lack of collaboration and transparency, whatever board they're working with. Board leadership affects superintendents, and just clarity around roles and responsibilities. And I just think it's perfect timing for all of you to start thinking about what's gonna attract or what's gonna be more attractive to a new superintendent. People are being really picky, really choosy. They're gonna watch meetings. Nancy knows this from her VSBA work. I was talking to someone from there about this just the other day and said, people being very picky, very choosy. They watch meetings, they Google the district, they Google, the media to see what's going on. And, if we, really clarify how we operate, how well we operate together from now until, forever, but from now to midwinter, I think you're gonna be in really good shape to attract a good candidate. There's been a lot of openings this year, and there's already a lot of people moving around for next year.
Yeah.
It's not too early for superintendents in a different district to start thinking, this is coming up next year, maybe I'm interested, I should start paying attention to Hartford. So, that's all I wanted to say is, really be careful about, how we're working together and how we're, appearing to the public and, presenting the best possible foot forward. So that's why I was thinking, I've talked to the coach already about a couple trainings. I know we talk about policy governance and we've been committed to policy governance for a long time. We've sort of, the last few months, we've fallen off the bandwagon a little like boards do because we've been in the weeds with the budget and the bond and that. So, training around policy governance. There's also a free training with Visbit's attorney, Pietro Lynn, around just good practice, good procedures. And I don't think we've ever done that since Doug's been on the board. And now with Garrett, he certainly hasn't had that training. So I think that would be great. And just really being tight, around our agendas, around how we manage public comment, around, executive sessions. What's it looking like to prospective candidates as they watch a Hartford School Board meeting or they Google Hartford School District? I know when I came, you can remember 13, 14 years ago, the first thing I did was read minutes and watch meetings and go, even if everything's running smoothly, is this a place I can see myself fitting in? Am I comfortable with how the board, is operating and what they're focused on? And I was, and that's why I came. But, everything we do is very public. And I think sometimes we forget that, someone can be watching right now live, they can also watch in 3 months tonight's meeting. So that's my spiel, and I just thought, if the board could start thinking about the search now, maybe we want to get going, or you want to, get in touch with the search firm around forming a committee and working on some things this summer. It wouldn't be too early to get out in the fall with search committee has already met. This is the timeline. This is the advertisement we want to get in the various, papers and online job postings, we're tight. This is when we're gonna get community input. This is what we're doing. The sooner you get out there, you might get a better pool too, because, people, the real pros are looking in November, December, especially if they're in superintendency already. They're gonna be looking, I gotta tell my board so they can start a search. And again, you may not want someone who's already been a superintendent, but just to keep the pool as open and as broad as possible, those folks are gonna look earlier than someone who's not a superintendent. So I think we're a great school district. We just want to make sure we're sort of presenting as a great school district. I know.
In addition to shining our shoes and making sure our suit looks good, all the rest of that at the district, may I suggest that when we start up the project again, or the process again, which I agree is probably not too early at all,
we think about what was going well and what wasn't going well with the first stab at this. I think we have the advantage of we've chosen a firm, we've already engaged with, so we don't have to go that part of the process. But we still should have some self-reflection on what was appearing to work and what was appearing to just get bogged down. See if we can avoid some of those traps in the future.
Nancy?
I completely agree that the sooner we get started, the better off we'll be. I completely agree with that. But I really think that we need to sit down with the search firm again. I think there's a lot of cloudiness that I don't know how it happened, but I just don't think that it was clear enough what we wanted, when we wanted it, how we wanted it, and on both parts, maybe both sides.
And-
I just think that we need to sit down with them and be very, it's gonna be black or white, there's gonna be any gray in the discussion. with
You know,
them.
I think that all of that points well taken. You know, having reflected back on, you know, on pieces of that, again, not to, it would just be good for us to do that.
Absolutely.
And I won't get into the, you know, the details, because I think enough of that could have been on us versus.
Well, it's good for both sides, yeah. Yeah.
And so, and with everything that was going on, you know, like two. You know, so.
It might not be a bad idea to look at what we just talked about for the bond steering.
Mhm.
Similar sort of process for a superintendent search steering committee with, you know, whether it's a parent or a board member or a community person that's sort of a cheer and helping you with all that. So it's done very well and very transparently.
Yeah.
I know with the administrators, I'm working really hard at clarifying, you know, our mission and focus and our goals so that when we start to interview candidates or even in our publicity, we're saying, this is what we're doing. So this is what you're interested in and you like this, come here.
Mhm.
So it's clear. And obviously I'll share that with the board as we do it, so the board can be real clear too, like, this is what we're working on, this is where we're going.
Right.
Can I raise one issue where we're failing our public relations? We had an ad, a thing in the paper about two of our teachers. They're helping the Portuguese families. Why? We find it backwards. We should be the one knowing it and publicizing it. We're not. We have a play coming up here in a matter of a week, or I think it's a week. Has there been any publicity for that?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a report, Doug, in a few minutes on, everything we've done to publicize, because, you know, we are working with a new person. So we have a whole bunch of articles that I've written, and posts that have been written, and, Karen, our consultant, has really, you know, actually helped me with some of this, conversation about the superintendent search, and she's really interested in working with all of you on, you know, public image and how you're perceived too. So if you're interested, that's another agenda topic we could talk about, but yeah, we've done a whole 5 to 6 articles that are ready to go and working on getting those in the Valley News, posting them on your social media sites and trying to really do a better job of that.
I assume we're coming up with some kind of a plan that your directors are going to be feeding you or Karen or
Yep.
whoever, so that it doesn't get lost.
We are. Yeah, we've been doing an article, you know, you know, every month from each school. probably could be more often, but there's a lot of schools and programs in the district. So, she's done, I think there's 6 articles ready to go now. I'm getting into the next topic. You know, we've got a lot of stuff going, a lot of good stuff going.
So as we plan the agendas for the next few meetings, we'll be very sensitive to the bond committee and the search process. We'll reach out to McPherson and make sure that we, set aside, time to do that piece.
You want me to do that PR that I added to the agenda just quick now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense because we're in that.
Yeah, Karen Corso, the media consultant, and she's from Amaj Associates. But we've been working on, and she's done an article on the cosmetology trip to France over April break. Cora's trip went to Ireland and sang in 3 different historic churches throughout Ireland. We had a high school trip to Peru. There's been an article in the social media post written up about that. Melissa Wyman also won our Rowland Fellowship. And that was on CAX News. I have a clip if you want to watch it at some point in this meeting, or I can share it with all of you of her winning a Rowland Fellowship. So next year, she's going to be fully paid for by the Rowland Foundation. We're able to hire a teacher to do her English role while she works on the Rowland Fellowship. And we also had a big article done on the DBS performance of James and the Giant Peach, which I heard was fantastic. So we're really working hard with everyone to get these stories out there. All these stories will be available for social media sites, but also they've all been sent to the Valley News, and hopefully they'll publish some of them or all of them. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of media attention. As you know, that came last week, CAX and interviewed Doug Anton and I about the budget and bond passing. That was fairly positive, I think, that they came here to talk about Hartford budget passing. So working hard on it. Keep working. I don't know if the board, with all those media posts that go to our school social media sites, do you want them for the school board social media page? Do you do that, Nancy, or is that something Tessa Johnson could do?
That was gonna be a question I was gonna ask.
I'm so glad I brought it up because I don't know who's doing that.
Well, I thought I was supposed to do it, then I was doing it, and Tessa sent me an email, said, there's some things on there that shouldn't be there, and I said, well, I can't change it.
Mm.
And then somebody changed my ability to change some of that. But then Tessa said she was doing it and you were doing it, and I thought, well, why is it taking 3 of us to do it?
I think
Should
maybe
just
you,
one of us be doing it, or
yeah,
I don't
you and
know.
I, maybe we should get together with Tessa and talk about how that gets done.
I think that would be a great idea, because 3 of us trying to do it, and I was spending literally hours
It is.
deleting stuff off of there that I have no idea where it came from.
Yeah, we should get together and talk about that.
Okay,
That makes sense. Thanks for the question.
We've also got all the principals finally beginning to post to the district calendar. So, that's taken forever to get off the ground because they post to their own school calendar for building. But we have a master Hartford School District calendar that they need to just copy their events to. So it'll populate both places, but some people aren't that familiar with doing that, but it's easy. So now we have all the administrative assistants lined up to post their events to their own building calendar, but also copy them to the Hartford School District calendar.
Might we suggest they also reference that calendar when doing things, so to the extent possible, but the
Exactly.
events don't happen at the same time.
Yeah, that's
It's
hard.
impossible to do it perfectly, but you can do better than we're doing.
Right. And this, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Exactly, especially the elementaries with the middle school and the high school. The elementaries can duplicate because obviously your children are in probably one elementary school. But when you have an elementary and a middle school then at the same time, on the same night, you can't go to both. So, we're trying.
So in addition to that, I guess the end of the year events.
Yeah, kind of hard to believe that we're here already. I think because the budget was so late. Where all of a sudden we're talking about retirement ceremonies and graduation and awards night. So, and I think especially for Garrett's benefit, there is a retirement celebration on June 5th. That technically is the board's and the teachers union event. Honoring retirees, so anyone with more than 15 years is honored on that afternoon. So it's June 5th at 4 o'clock, and it's outside, weather permitting, in front of the high school, or inside if the weather is conducive to being outside. Graduation is the 14th at 7 o'clock. So we'll be talking to all board members about whether they want to attend and sit up front and be part of the ceremony or not. Awards night is the 9th, which is that Sunday just before graduation at 6 p.m. And then there are training, I said, on policy governance on May 8th, which is our regular board meeting night. We could do that here, or we could do that at central office. And then we also need to find a night to do training with Pietro Lynn, just around the board practices, if you're interested. So there's a lot of dates. Next week is May. I don't know how that happened, but.
You know, and that's why these committees and the timing, you know, is really critical. You know, getting folks online.
Yeah, the retirement ceremony is one of my favorites. I mean, everything is, but retirement is really important that some board members attend because you have some folks retiring with, 30, 35 years of service to the district. I think it's important that we recognize and acknowledge their commitment. And it's short and sweet.
Nice.
They tend to have ice cream and cake.
We have
Yeah.
lots of snacks and goodies.
Cool. So, board committee assignments and reports.
I put the committee list in the packet tonight in case you want to reference that. I know Garrett's still learning all the committees he's on and what he's supposed to be doing. We haven't done a lot because we were so entrenched in the budget and bond precision and vote. So hopefully, we'll have a community engagement meeting soon. We need to have a policy meeting. I know we've had a couple of negotiations topics that Peter and Kevin have had to deal with. Lot going on.
So I guess if, are there any additions to our discussion around the facilities and planning at this point, would you say, Doug, or did we kind of cover it earlier, most of where we are?
think we covered it.
I just want to make sure.
And then some.
And we have results.
You know, I just thought I'd throw it out there. You know, the annual meeting stuff doesn't come until October, so we'll just leave that. H. Corey. Yes,
I didn't get to go to the last meeting, Sarah, did you?
Yeah.
You want, I'm sorry,
No, you're fine.
I was out of town.
So we're proposing, we're gonna do a charter review and look at, the town is asking for non-voting members. We're asking for one member from each board, so that hasn't been worked out quite yet. And then we've asked, the town manager to appoint a non-voting staff member to the committee as well. So we're really trying to get a better, interchange with both boards. So that's where we are.
cool. Select board, anybody been able to jump in?
I didn't get to the last one.
I've been talking to John a lot about a joint meeting. That's part of why we're meeting Friday. They have some ideas to work together on with their new board and want to get together with all of you and get going. So the next meeting, we should be able to report out on what they're thinking. It's a good sign.
HACDC,
Yep, I don't know all of it, but I got it through the grapevine, but the business students participated in the state meeting and they won. And they're now on their way to Florida in June for the national. So it's just one more thing you could say, here we are.
I know, Paul.
Nothing has happened on policy. We took a break.
And we've been all about finance.
Yeah.
You know, for the last few months.
Yeah.
But I think something that I'd like to suggest is that we, for transparency's sake, you know, we just do an update on, you know, how it works. In the sense that, you know, there's the board piece of it. And then there's our whole finance office. And how does that office really function? And how would we like to see it function in the district? You know, as effectively and efficiently as possible, you know, and that can be done in the report, you know. Normally we'd ask for a monitoring report on it. And that would be something that, you know, Tom would work with, you know, Jacob and look at, for example. Does each entity get its own budget sheet? And how does that work up through the process? You know, is or down through the process in either direction? You know, how do those things work? You know, and it doesn't have to be a super detailed thing, but at least if people knew how that worked, that would make a lot of sense. You know, because I gave, someone had asked me the question and I gave them how it was when I was teaching here. I actually got a budget sheet and a statement from my school principal that at the beginning of that cycle, the board said, you've got a 3% margin to work with. So I looked at every single line item in my budget and I adjusted it accordingly. And that's where the negotiation started, you know, with the principal. And then from then, it was a question of with the principal and the superintendent coming back and saying, that's not gonna work. Or whatever. But I think that it's important for us to get those things down, and see where we are, because that might not be the case right now. And it would be good for us and everybody else too. So that's just from a finance perspective. Negotiation,
So the only issue here is we've had a quick email conversation, Tom, myself and Coach, about the distinct lack of applicants for jobs in custodial positions. And the fact is that we believe that absent parity with Dartmouth in terms of what they pay custodians, we're not going to be able to attract anybody because they have other choices. So we would like to enter into negotiations to see about adjusting the pricing for custodial positions. So we can try to get a few people in the door. And we haven't started down any paths or anything, but we would like to engage in that process. And start to look at that, which means we'll be talking with the union and so forth about how we would go about looking at that issue. We don't want to.
Have we identified the source that we're gonna be able to pull that money from to do this?
well, see, that's all part of, the piece that has to come back to the board. And is what is that gonna look like and where does it come from?
We just know we have a problem. We don't know the cost of fixing it or anything else yet. So we were just saying, and.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now we have several vacancies.
Yeah.
So the prospect, the way it is we won't fill all the positions. So we'd be better off raising the rates. Not filling all the positions. But yeah, that'll be part of the equation.
Right, and that's something that's a real-time number that, Tom and Jacob can actually give us. Because if you were to put a matrix out of X number of custodians needed to cover X number of shifts, and if all of them were in place at a certain rate, you can actually calculate, fairly simply, like what the cost is and, what the budget would be if it was full. Being that it's not full, we know that money is set aside for that position.
Yeah, every district is having trouble with custodians in particular.
So we will not make any decisions before bringing it to the board. But we want to start looking at, can we actually even do anything?
And some of those, like when we are in full-blown negotiations, we would generally give, a report. And then if we're closer to an actual contract, at least we'd meet an executive session to give you the details of what that contract would look like prior to, it becomes public. And we need to make sure we stay within our labor relations rules. So. Nancy?
Hartford Community Coalition, we're doing a take back this Saturday at the co-op. I'll be up there and Hartford PD will be up there. And anyone who has outdated prescriptions or prescriptions you don't use anymore, they don't even have big prescriptions. It's just any meds. Bring them on up to us and we'll be there from noon until 2 on Saturday.
Are you doing sharps too?
Yes, Sharps do. Yeah.
For people
Yeah.
with diabetes.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll just get right down to the SBA. We've been very busy sending letters to representatives and committee members and anybody else we thought might need to have a letter. Yes, Coach is laughing.
Been getting a few letters lately, Coach?
Regarding the new Secretary of State, Secretary of Ed. So,
I assume you also had your finger in the yield bill?
yeah, I had the finger in that one too. We've been doing a lot of writing, a lot of meetings, and then I just, yesterday, I think, sent out the weekly newsy thing about what's going on and what are some of the, trainings that are coming up that are free. So I encourage us, all of us to take a look at those trainings. They're not long. Some of them are just an hour from noon until 1 o'clock. So they're real easy to go to or easier to go to. And they've got a lot of useful information.
And I think the, you guys have the, interviews with the secretary nominee
Yes,
on your site.
Yes.
So if anybody in the community would like to. I guess it's time for us to be done.
there's a little bit out there.
But,
They all go up on
the,
Yeah,
you know, I think that it's important for the community to become aware,
very important.
you know, of, you know, what's going on. And so those sites, you know, like are available. And then, VPR and, BT Digger also have articles because they've interviewed, actually, I was listening to the interview on the way down this afternoon, and she was actually before the confirmation hearing yesterday. And it goes to full vote of the Senate possibly tomorrow. It'll either be tomorrow. or
Tomorrow,
Friday,
Friday, yeah,
you know, depending on how they notice it.
yeah.
So it's real.
It's very real, and for the ones of you out in television land here, this is a lady that, was brought up from Florida. And our governor asked her to come up and fill this position, but what we, the collective we and the state of Vermont, are very strongly for public schools. This woman is not so much at all, and we've got some great concerns, other concerns that, for her qualifications. So, somewhat, if you want to get more about it, just send me a text and I'll blast you with all the information that you would want. Yes, Sarah.
Did you find the Vermont Public interview compelling? Have you listened to it? I think it was with Michaela Freck, and it was a good 25 minutes. It wasn't short. But I found it to be interesting,
It's, yeah, more of that.
an interesting side.
Yes, yeah.
So it might be worth a listen for anybody who has it.
Full disclosure, she is visiting the district tomorrow.
I know.
So she'll be with me at Dover School at 9 o'clock. And then at the middle school, probably at about 9:45. You know, the agency asked and, she's visited many school districts, so didn't feel it was right to say no.
Oh, I think it was a good thing to say yes on that for that.
Well,
If
We're
you
gonna
do
take her to
we were
Oakville
asked,
kindergarten. They asked specifically for some reason to visit Golden Brook in, the middle school. I have no idea why.
the, yeah, I knew what was coming. They asked.
Yeah.
Earlier, you know, and I agree, you know, it wouldn't have been a good thing for our district to be a district or not.
Yes,
She visited, White River Valley.
Yeah.
Last week. And, Colchester.
Yeah.
And I spoke to both superintendents and it went very well.
Yeah. Well, in speaking to her legislative liaison, they came and asked me for, because there was so much turmoil,
mhm.
you know, on the legislative side. So,
Yeah, I've been listening to hours of testimony.
oh yeah. So it's been an interesting situation. You know, I see him every day, so it's like, so you know, you can't not Anyways, that brings us to, the manifest, everything's, like moving along. The new, accounting system. Folks are really getting, used to it now. So I think that has been very helpful. And the equity piece, is continuing to move. We'll discuss that, at another point as far as expectations and goals. Mine are a little different, some of them than others, but then again, nobody has done it quite as long. So my expectation would be a little different. So anyways, I'll leave that at that for the moment. And upward and onward in that arena also. So that brings us to public comments.
Couple people online. I don't know if anybody from online and cyber world wants to speak, or anyone here. I don't see anyone with their hands raised. Our media consultant is on. Hi, Karen. That's Amaj.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tom,
Amaj.
while she's on, one of my concerns as we go forward, I'd really like to see us answering questions for the community before they have the question. And it comes down to, and I talked about this before, I would like to see notes from the superintendent. I don't know if I'm just grabbing that at the moment, but I think it would be really helpful for us if there was a publicized report from Tom every month as to what's going on in the district, problems that we potentially, the town citizens should know that we're facing and what we're trying to do to resolve them, and the positives. But I just, the town put their faith in us. Our tax burden is high. And therefore anxieties go right with it. And I just think there's a lot that we do, they have no idea, and credit's due where it should be. And I just think we should just be 2 steps ahead so that it will relieve their anxiety.
so just thinking about where this meeting has gone today. And thinking in that regard, Tom,
Remember, this is a public comment.
okay, yeah,
So we need to.
yeah, well, the only public comment was Doug's.
Yeah. I understand. This is a public comment, not a business portion of it.
So what I was
We're not running over the.
right, but there's any number of quick things that we can do to respond. And I had a quick one to respond. And, I know that, Tom has done newsletters in the past, and it might not be a bad time, to maybe give some thought to, with the help of, the consultant, doing those, because she can do a lot of the editing for you, but Sarah.
I also want to think about some sort of bond facility dashboard. Because, all the questions about the roof, well, how are you spending the COVID money? What's the ESSER thing? Like, I don't even want that to be aware. I want to start off at the beginning with just a monthly, and so that might be something that she can help us with,
like a dashboard, right? These are the 5 projects we're working on, these are the 3 things we've completed, this is where we are. It can be really simple, but I want it to be updated monthly, because I don't want people to talk about the hiding and the non-transparency stuff, because like, they put a lot of faith in us, and I wanna make sure that they feel like they're part of it. So on that same note.
All things we've been thinking about. A monthly
And the other
newsletter.
thing I need to stress is, we need to do more than just putting it on our homepage. Because there is a large population out there of people my age and older, don't do that.
Well, I didn't say.
And some, we need to get it in the paper so that it's out there.
I hear you.
So is part of Karen's job to get it in the newspaper? Or is
She
that
tried,
you're
yeah,
doing it?
she is trying. to get
She's
it.
trying to do that part too.
She's trying to get it in the newspaper for free.
Yeah.
With her connections with the papers.
Okay.
You know, there may be things that we need to pay, but I'm happy to, put it on the agenda and report out on it, everything she's doing.
I would like to hear that too, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
But
Cool. So any other comments, thoughts from the public?
Can I make one comment?
Yes.
Can I do it?
Yeah.
Okay. I know personally, if I'm trying to watch your meetings, they're very hard. Select board, I can go on CATV and find it, and you folks, I can't. I have to go to either YouTube and watch it that way, pull it up on our phones, or some other way. I cannot go on TV and watch it, and I don't know why. But
That's,
select board I can, but you folks I can't.
I've heard that too from other people.
So there's another avenue for older citizens that still have cable,
well,
you know,
the question is, it's, as I look at our facilitator, from, the entity that helps us, like with that, what's the technical reason?
Not exactly sure. This meeting is broadcast on channel 1085.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what makes it less or more searchable than the select board meetings. I can bring that up, see if there's a good reason. YouTube is the alternative, via maybe more indirect. But I'll make sure that gets notated.
Because I know, I've looked, on the TV side, because it's nicer, and you don't have to use your YouTube, account, do this, do all of that, and then run that through your system, whereas it used to be nice to just go to the channel, and scroll through, go, oh, there we are, click.
and I think you lose some of your audience when they have to keep clicking,
Right.
to
Yeah.
find you.
Yeah.
And so just
Yeah.
another way of getting it out there.
Well,
for people to
thanks.
Watch, it's easier to access the select board than it is you folks, and
Cool. Any other? So that brings us to the consent agenda.
yeah, there's a lot of appointments. Our secretaries doesn't have a fit, but I'll give you the list. And the reason there are a lot of appointments is this is that time of the year, now the contracts went out right after the budget passed. So all the people that were hired last year, that were 1-year hires are all on this list. So these aren't all people that we just hired, they're mostly people who've been here for a year and we know we want to keep them. So it's a long list, and there are a couple new ones too that we filled now that the budget passed. So, Sarah Hitzman, as you know, the middle school finished their principal and associate principal search. Thank you to CATV for helping us broadcast that and get input, but we also had a really great committee that facilitated the search, and we we selected 2 candidates just before vacation. So Sarah Hisman, who was the acting assistant principal this year, was selected to be the permanent associate principal for next year. Cody Chancredi was selected for the principal position at the middle school, so we're really excited to have Cody come on board. And then we have Wendy Bordeaux, who's a 4th grade teacher at Ottaquiche School. Joyce Yo Babbitt, who's a new librarian at DBS. Ricky Sperry is the DBS QRS. No, that's supposed to be White River School. DBS White River School. World Cultures teacher. Says QRS. That's not a school. Threw me right off. Alexis Atkinson, DBS Triple E educator, special educator. Lauren Epson Hart Clark is a DBS special educator. Jason Finley is a new counselor here at the Tech Center. Tim Hebert is retiring. Anja Willette is a new literacy and communication specialist here at the Tech Center. Tom Avellino is a middle school PE teacher, so he's coming back. He was here this year as of 1 year. Lindsay Kearney, new science teacher at the middle school. Ray Kuchar, middle school interventionist. Catherine Streeter, WRS nurse. Sophia Colleen's a new 5th grade teacher at Ottaquiche School, and Caitlin Barak is a new 5th grade teacher at Ottaquiche School. A couple resignations. Kimberly Karki is a 2nd grade teacher at Dothanbrook School. Charmaine Lowe is a special educator here in the Regional Resource Center, and Leah Assop is a 2nd grade teacher at Dothanbrook. So, yeah, a lot of people. I'm gonna give you the list.
No retirements.
No retirements. We've already announced. And then you have 2 sets of minutes from the 27th of March and from the Saturday meeting. Thank you, Sherry. That was a lot of notes. Yes, it was. Earned her keep that day, right on the 6th.
I'd like to move that we accept the consent agenda, welcome those new members to the school community, and wish those who are departing great luck with whatever they're doing.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Let's see, our next meeting is 5/8.
Yeah, do you wanna do that here or at our office? We do have Debbie Singeser, who's from the Vermont School Board
Yes, yeah.
Association, coming to do the training. Should be about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Policy governance sort of review and introduction with Garrett and Doug. I don't think either have had that training. And just sort of.
My preference is to have it over at your office. I think it's
That's
a
what
much. This is a really big room for just a few of us
That's why I
for training,
Yeah, for training.
kind of get lost. Instead of being able, I think it's.
What do you think? SOS?
You can. Okay.
Peter and Garrett?
I'm fine with either location. We've traditionally done it in the superintendent's schools offices. I've never had a problem with that, so happy to do it again.
Yeah, either location works for me. I just need it. Is it going to be, so it's 5/8, it would be during our normal board meeting time? Would it be before or during? During? Okay. Yeah, either location works for me.
Going to have food? We can. It tends to make it more collegial. Kind of the sort of informal kind of thing for.
Feed them,
Yeah.
they act, no.
How well you know me.
Okay. And, what we can do is we can have, a short, technical agenda just as an update. But we'll work on what we can do, because some of the assignments that we all have collectively can't wait, can't necessarily wait. But they're not gonna take a lot of discussion, contacting McPherson. But that, we'd like to meet for the May meeting, or the second meeting in May, because that, falls into the community engagement time. And it's a perfect time to have a community engagement discussion around the survey process. And some of those types of things. The same thing with the bond updating, progress on that discussion. Types of just keep the ball rolling. So to speak.
Can
Yes,
I have two things? Could you email us all the dates that you have the retirement and that sort of thing, so that at least for me, it doesn't get lost? And second,
They're in the minutes too.
and the second thing is, what? We haven't really had a chance to discuss it. What's happening with Christian Street? Have we done anything with the land since?
the weather.
Yes. We're full steam ahead. I don't know if you want me to talk about that now. It's not on the agenda, so I just want to be careful, but that's up to them.
Well, we can do a quick update. If there's, with that agenda
Yeah,
for the
everything,
meeting.
okay. Yeah, but yeah, everything's moving forward, but I'm happy to update you on the 8th. Exactly where we're at.
It's construction season outdoor, just to give you an idea. I drove through 7 miles of yellow cones.
Yeah.
This morning. It's the start of construction season.
Hitting every single one.
Well, I tried to avoid as many as I could. I was trying to go like this, in between them, trying to get fancy driving still. But it's upon us. And if you look at the White River Bridge, across the White River, I mean, that is moving. Those people.
I know, it's amazing.
That's gonna.
Every time I go by.
It's just amazing, but
Yeah,
we're in
no, I'm
that
happy to
season.
give you an update. I wish I had put that on.
It's in that season. Okay, cool. All right, meeting evaluation.
Me?
Yes.
All right. So the board was prepared for the meeting, satisfactory. The board's time was spent on ends, not means. Satisfactory. Each board member was given an opportunity to participate. Satisfactory, even if it was long distance for some of us. Board treated all persons with courtesy and fairness. Satisfactory. Board adhered to Robert's rules of order as was necessary or appropriate. Yes. Board adhered to its adopted governance style in that it emphasized outward vision, it encouraged diversity in viewpoints, it exercised strategic leadership, not administrative detail, it maintained the distinction between board and staff roles, it used collective decision-making, and it looked to the future. Satisfactory. With that, I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.